see the good become champions.
Hello and welcome to episode 32 of Celtic Rumours TV, the Bawz Bovril podcast with your host Mark and myself Paul. On today's show we will be joined by Barry and Michael. This show is now sponsored by Manscaped, grooming for men. Eurospets football is back this summer. Avoid a Marion Fellaini bush in the midfield and clean up your midsection with Manscaped. Proud sponsors of Celtic Rumours TV, the Bawz and Bovril podcast. Be a proper lad this tournament and shave your bits with the best global leaders in below waist grooming. Manscaped, join over 2 million worldwide who trusted Manscaped with an exclusive offer for you, 20% off, free shipping run worldwide with our code Celtic Rumours TV at manscaped.com. Manscaped is dedicated to helping you level up your full body grooming game so that you can enjoy the games clean and properly cared for. They have forever changed the grooming game with their Performance Package 3.0, head to toe, this ultimate male hygiene bundle. The Performance Package 3.0 comes with a lawnmower 3.0 weed whacker and has functionals to round up the grooming routine. Bring your body back to life in the game for a full 90 minutes. You've probably heard of the Lawnmower 3.0 Aka, the best ball trimmer ever created. This is the best trimmer on the market for those who need it and in need of a shave for their testes. The third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to the advanced safe care technology powered by Manscaped. There's even a LED light so that you can see everything you're doing down there. Also included is the Weed Whacker Air and Nose Hair Trimmer, which is waterproof and uses a 9000 RPM motor powered by 360 degrees rotary dual blade system. There's a nose and air trimmer, protection safe care technology which helps prevent nicks, snags, tugs in those dedicated holes. Look fellas, 79% of the partners polled admitted that long hair nose is a major turn off. Why not use the best tools for the job here? And don't forget about their liquid formulation to round up the grooming game into performance packages. Their crop cleaner body wash keeps your hair and skin feeling fresh and healthy. You will also find Manscaped Crop Preserver, ball deodorant, anti-chaffing ball deodorant and moisturizer. You will also find Crop Reviver, ball toner, a testes toner that is designed to give you an extra boost you need to get the job done on the pitch. Look as clean as well groomed head to toe for all-time greats David Beckham. Get 20% off free shipping with our code Celtic Rumours TV at manscaped.com. Trim your balls while listening to the Bawz and Bovril podcast. Not only will your wife thank you for it, but your wife will thank you for it too. On today's show, we will be discussing the latest Celtic and rumours around Celtic. Barry and Michael will be joining us to discuss the two Dominic McKay interviews with the media and the fans media from Friday. Michael will give us an update on the football match on the 18th of July. And there's a new topic called Any Other Business, where we will ask you, the live chat, to give us a topic to discuss, and we will discuss it live on the show. And we'll ask the lads, Michael and Barry as well, if there's any other topic that they wish to discuss, and we will talk about that as well. Firstly though, I'll hang off to Mark for our weekly shout-outs.
Thank you very much, Paul. Welcome aboard, lads. The link for the Manscaped site, that's in the description box below. So you can use that to go straight to the site if anybody's wanting it. Excuse me. Just the usual shout outs to Tim Alloy, Malika, Young Ben and ROH. Richie, I saw Richie was in the live chat the other night when we were doing the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
That was good to see him on, you know what I mean? It's a bit of a tough time with that. And that's his fourth or fifth time fighting cancer, Paul.
Jesus Christ, ridiculous. Unbelievable.
Just, you know what I mean? So just everybody keep Richie and the rest of the lads in your thoughts and prayers going forward. And we'll have, obviously Mikey's coming on, but a wee update on his brother-in-law. He's out home and seems to be making good progress. Or really impressed with how quickly he's came on from where he was, kind of thing. So that's a bit of good news as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just who's there, David Sutherland. All right, evening, David. Mikey and Barry's already in the live chat. Don't be a bit quiet in there just now tonight, but let's get the ball rolling, Paul.
I suppose before we start and before the lads come on, we'll ask them while they've been out for the last week or two, were they shaving their balls while listening to the Bawz Bovril podcast. So we'll find out, does the bush match the silk heads when the lads come on?
Aye, I know. Aye, that's it. The two of them hardly got a hair in their head,
Celtic defender Jack Henry has officially left the club and has signed for Belgian club KV Ostend for a fee of £1.8 million. West Ham are actually looking to sign this defender for around £5 million, but considering the way Jack Henry has been with Celtic and what we've saw in the Euros, it's pretty much good business for Celtic. Celtic have offered Croatian under-21 defender Marius a £17,000 a week contract deal. Torino are also interested in the player, but Celtic have supposedly hammered out a better deal for the under-21s defender. St Johnstone have slapped a £1 million transfer fee on Celtic target Ali McCann. Celtic have reportedly turned down two 10 million bids for one-to-one Celtic defender Christoph Ayer. Are Celtic playing a dangerous game here by holding off for a much bigger transfer fee for the defender? As again, if we're holding off, could this backfire in Celtic and we'll end up in the end selling him off at a much cheaper fee? Celtic Park could be full capacity on the 10th of August, according to the media reports on Scottish Government and papers today. All could change in the coming weeks for Celtic fans who can't wait to get back in to support the club for next season. Celtic left-back Boli Bangoli is keen to leave the club during this transfer window. Turkish club Alita have room to be interested in the player, who, in my opinion, ended his own career when he broke COVID restrictions last season. That's all for the Celtic and rumours and gossip for today's show. Again, as Mark said last time, this is just all rumours and gossip. We hold no accountability for it, so please don't be putting any bets down on anything that's gossip and rumours. On today's,
at least there is some gossip and rumours for a wee change, Paul.
the interesting one I'm looking at, Mark, is the two bids that have supposedly been turned down by Celtic for Christoph Ayer. We were saying 10 million ourselves, Mark, would have been a good deal considering he's only a year left in his contract and he wants away.
According to the press a couple of weeks ago, Newcastle had a deal done for him for £8 million, didn't they?
Yes,
I said at the time there was no way in the world Celtic would accept £8 million for Ayer.
My only problem with that is, like, if Celtic are holding out for a bigger fee, Mark, and people don't come into it in the last couple of weeks of the transfer window, then we'll end up selling them for fucking maybe 6 or 7 or 8. Do you know it's me.
They're saying that Celtic are looking for 12, Paul. I think they'll get that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just haggling, and they're just no team's going to.
And especially when it's kind of so early too as well in the transfer.
That as well. There's, months still to go in the transfer window.
I think this deal for this young Croatian lad, it's going to be done in the next couple of days.
Looks as if
that Torino actually couldn't match the wages that Celtic were. It's amazing, Mark, how times have changed in Italian football that Torino or anything like that can't match Celtic's wage lengths.
Maybe they can match it, but they just don't want to, Paul.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Maybe we're paying them a wee bit extra to get me come to Scotland, which I don't mind us doing that if they're only coming here because they were paying them extra money. That doesn't bother me in the slightest.
Or maybe it's under new board manager, Mark, that Dominic McKay actually is giving these players a better contracts to get them in.
Well,
I'm not looking at you.
I've said it all along, Paul. For years I've said that I've got a problem with the money that we spend in transfers. It's mere we've not spent it wisely enough for a start, but I've got maybe a problem with like the wages that we pay. See if we just stepped it up
Exactly.
to the next bracket of kind of wages to your 40 grand a week. I'm not saying the full team made up of £40,000 a week players, but for that wee bit of different class, do you know what I mean? It's going to really
Yeah,
improve the
exactly. And get
two or three
exactly,
years.
Mark. Get the players in that would add a bit of class and not getting the second or third option. Do you know
No,
what I mean? That we've seen have failed consistently over the years.
I keep harping back to it, but look at Scott Sinclair.
Hmm.
I mean, if to get that, we paid a wee bit extra in wages to get him up here, and we get more than our money's worth out of him, I reckon, Paul. I thought Sinclair was brilliant for us.
There are still so grapes for me between towards Peter Lawler, even Neil Lennon, Mark, the way he left the club, like considering what he did for us, like it wasn't. And even now he still talks about his time up in Celtic, saying it was the best time of his career with Celtic. Like like that's the way he left us is shocking, and the
Fixing your throat a bit
it
if
does like, but the fans don't remember that. Like they just remember how much of a good player, like, and he was the one player, Mark, who his career was finished, basically down in England, Mark, finished.
he was
Just he
going.
came up just to us like a different player altogether. Like, and what a signing he was for us, Mark, wasn't he?
He really was. I mean, I know he cost us a lot of money in wages and things like that, but you've got to say that it's been one of the best Celtic transfers in the last 10 years, I'd say, Paul, easily.
Yeah, yeah, but that's just.
The most successful transfers as well. I mean, because we've spent the money kind of, I mean, they're your pal Klamala. We spent the same kind, no, maybe wages, but in transfer fees, we spent the same kind of money on him as Sinclair.
Hmm.
We go off of Klamala for whatever, again, we're not getting into the reasons for that again, but it just shows you what you can get if you're willing
If you go up to the next bracket, yes, Mark, up to the next bracket, like we're not good. Like we're still working within our budget, Mark, of the 30,000 a week. Like that's made it up. Do you know?
Well, there will only be many getting £30,000 a week now. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But there's Scott Brown away. That's what probably your top earner away.
Hmm. Like, but 17 grand, Mark, it's not too we say too expensive for Celtic, really, Mark, is it?
No,
Like we should be kind of
I find
getting
that less than
qualifiers who would be
I find that
accepting
less
that,
than
Mark.
you get a week, Paul.
I get manscaped.
That's in your OnlyFans, sitting manscaping on your OnlyFans channel.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. The wife is listening, Mark. She's down now looking at Paul Kyle's OnlyFans channel now. That's what she is because of you. That's me in the doghouse. So, moving on. Today we'll be joined by Barry and Michael, Iceman and Michael Dundee for the forum. Again, any of you who don't know, our forum page is celticrumours.co.uk.
All Celtic fans are welcome there. If you've never been on it, come on, have a look and join in the conversations and the threads that are on there.
It's good, lads, because that's how I actually got involved in this podcast, wasn't it? Like, this is how you met me, was through the forum, and it's there's nothing bad I can say about it. Like, there's no one. Everyone has boundaries. Everyone respects the boundaries there within people. It's like a family on that forum. No marketing at all.
It's really good. It's gone from strength to strength over the years, Paul, when I first started doing it.
Mm-hmm. 10 years, was it 12 years ago, Mark, or something? Was it 15 years ago?
11, it'll be 11 years this year.
So I'm 10 years on it. So you only started a year when I came. Jesus, wow. So I didn't think I'm that long. I was in my prime then, Mark.
When you'd a Mario and Fellaini book.
Exactly.
I think that's Barry and Mikey there now. He's there, lads.
Evening, guys.
Evening.
Yeah,
Mikey,
I'm
how
here.
you what? So lads, I suppose the first question is, did you trim your balls while you were listening to us on the Bawz and Bovril podcast when you were out for the last couple of weeks? Barry?
Is this not a pre-watershed show? What's going on here? Certainly what I don't need to trim is the top of my head, I'll tell you that.
Barry's thinking, did he dial the right number?
I know. I know. It's good to keep nice and trimmed down there since we've got a sponsor now. Yeah, I'd recommend it to all the listeners and all the people on the live chat. Go and help ahead and get yourself on the Manscaped and let us know how you get on.
Oh, jeez. Thanks for that, Barry. First, Barry.
Get ready for the calendar next year.
Mike, how you, buddy?
Yeah, fine, yeah. I was just going to say that I've got as much hair down there and I have on the back of my crown, and that's no much. So.
All right, we leave the Manscaped bit. First, Barry, I come to yourself. Look, we'll start with the interviews from the media first, and then we kind of move down into the what we call it, the fans media, as they called it. But how, just hold it off and Ange at the moment, like, how did Dominic McKay come off to you on Friday in the interviews?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, first of all, I think they both came off very positively, personally. But obviously, I'll stick with Dom McKay first. I think it's kind of refreshing to hear the way this guy sort of speaks.
Yes.
And the vision he's got for the club going forward. Obviously, he's not actually officially even started his role yet. That comes, I think, during this week, 1st of July. But the early indications of what he's telling us, what he's putting across in the media, it's exactly what we're wanting to hear. It sounds like he is going to be a different beast from Peter Lawwell, judging by his early comments. He mentioned a number of things that, were quite impressive. He kind of, for me, indicated that football's potentially not his forte. It's potentially not his strong point, but he'll be focused on the business side, the commercial side, the engagement side. He mentioned all these words, and then he says, but I'll be tapping into Big Ange on the football side, because he was talking about, he wants to look at the whole football and structure. Mm-hmm. He mentioned the words again, he wants the club to evolve, he wants to modernise the club. And it was mentioned not only in the ones with the Scottish media, but also the fans media conference as well. He mentioned about evolving the club and modernising the club. So for me, right from the outset, he seems like a very positive guy and potentially exactly what we are needing instead of Peter Lawwell. Although he got a bit too involved in the football side of things, and that was his downfall, and it cost the club in a number of areas. Yes, he had his strong points in terms of negotiating and getting good, deals and sell-on values and players. But like I say, the early indications for me from Dominic McKay were very, very positive, and I'm really looking forward to see where he takes the club and the direction he takes this football club in.
Michael, I come to you as well on Dominic.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Barry said. I was quite I just liked his tone, just the way he came across in the thing. But I'm more interested in seeing what's going to happen on the pitch than. Mm-hmm. Don't get us wrong, it is good to hear from these guys.
We want to see actions rather than words, Michael, as well, don't you?
Yeah, like I say, it's all good having being able to talk, but like I say, Celtic are a bit in disarray just now with the first team squad, and like I say, that's the talking over now. I just want this. I think this week is pivotal to Europe and everything. Like we need the guy that Mario Vuskovic, the centre back for Huddersfield Split, that's meant to be coming in this week. In the next 40 hours, rumour. If they get guys like that, I don't know if many guys in the chat know much about him, but I've done a bit of research on him. He's meant to be absolutely outstanding.
Highly regarded as well.
If I'm being honest, I'm just being honest. Like I'm surprised that if they do get him unbelievable. But I'm very surprised if we are able to get him. That's me. So that's good signs right away if they're able to get. But until he's actually at Parkhead with a scarf raised, I'll hesitate a bit. I've heard all this before.
Exactly. Mark, I suppose the big thing that we heard from Dominic yesterday was, and we were trying to put all this link together with the Australian guys, Gavin and Chris, and we thought it was the Man City group that maybe direct us towards Big Ange, but it wasn't. It was actually Dominic McKay's man. Ange was. It was Dominic McKay who wanted it.
It came across that way, didn't it, when he was speaking? That was with the fans media, wasn't it? He was talking, and it was. As I said to you in the message when we spoke about it earlier on, Paul, I kind of maybe looking back was Eddie Howe maybe Peter Lowell's choice, Des McDermott as well, kind of thing. But then when that fell by the wayside, Dominic McKay said, "Well, there's this guy out in Japan or out in Australia. Do you know what I mean? And I think he could do a real good job for us, just the way because I think they've obviously known each other, maybe, Paul, the way they kind of
spoke to each other, exactly, and even on the
crossed paths at some point, idea. And I kind of got that impression that it maybe been Mackay that put Ange forward for the job, which is a good thing. If he's back to, you get what I mean, the way he was backing him in the press conference and that, it's as if they're working in tandem as a unit. And
as a unit, Mark, yes, exactly. And this
with Peter Lowell sitting there, when was the last time you could say that about a manager at Celtic?
Jeez, I say.
Yeah, but I mean,
could we go back to the Martin O'Neill era, Martin, I think?
That was one of the things that I did get. It was the way that Mackay spoke about Ange, and saying that he trusts him, even his philosophy, he's putting his trust in him, and he knows he's a good manager and what he's capable of.
Kept going back to refer to Ange as wealth of experience, Mark, didn't he? Like, I'd be tapping into this man's wealth of experience, you know?
I like the way as well that Mackay kept, I know it's a bit of a cliche to use kind of thing, we use it all the time with certain players, but he kept saying that everything at the club should be world class. He used that term world class quite a few times when he was talking about what his plans were for behind the scenes and things like that. So again, we spoke about the deterioration in the standards across the club to our blue in the face, Paul, and it's as if Mackay's he's planning
rectified it. Yeah, he rectified these
change it. Aye, but as we said before, the actions will prove he's. Do you know what I mean? Actions speak louder than words, and that will prove whether he's been honest or truthful or whatever way you want to put it. But he certainly said the right things and was a lot more positive than anything Peter Lowell ever really came out with, and a lot more open. The way he was just sitting, you could tell maybe wasn't he? Although he was a top man in rugby, there's a big difference between being a top man in rugby and being the top man at Celtic. Do you know what
we want? What I think, like in relation to that, Mark, like we want the way he kind of modernised the rugby within Scotland. Like that's the way we want him to bring Celtic, like, do you know what I mean, into modern football, isn't it?
But see, ideally, Paul, it's gonna through this coming season or whatever, hopefully we don't need to talk about Dominic Mackay much. You get what I mean? It's I mean, could you name the CEO of any other club?
No, it's because we knew Peter Lord, because he was so involved in the first team, like, and taught dominant in signings. He was there for every single signing. He was there for every major event. Do you know, like, the CEO should be.
I noticed that they said as well, I think it was to the mainstream media that they said that Lowell's still involved with the ECA for another 2 years. So I don't know if he's maybe need to have some connection with Celtic to still be able to do that job.
And what does that involve there now, Mark, with Peter Lord involved with that?
I'm not. That's what I'm saying. I thought he needed to be attached to a club in some kind of capacity still to keep up that role. That's the European Club Association. It used to be called the G8 or something like that. It started off as, I'm sure, years and years ago. It was all meant to be the biggest clubs in Europe. See, like the first teams that started the Champions League and that, and then it's just grew and grew, and it's like, well, that's where Lowell met the boys for Ajax to talk about.
Oh yes, to the kind of restructure within the European Champions League and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think what he said as well, though, was that, look, I'm going to be the one making decisions, but Peter Law, knowing the club and knowing how to do things, he'd be down there at the end of the phone for advice. But at the end of the day, Mark, he kind of make look that he wants to be his own man, make his own decisions, which I think was
Well,
kind of
if you're
about time, really.
it would be. You're saying
Stupid.
aye, you're saying he's talking about tapping into Big Angie's knowledge and things like that, but it would be silly if you weren't tapping into Peter Law's knowledge and kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It would be. No, I mean,
Considering how long he's been at the club, Mark.
exactly. There isn't anybody in this planet. Even Peter Law will know more about how Celtic runs than probably even Dermot Desmond does. Because
Mm-hmm.
Peter Law's job run it day to day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Moving on. Mike, Mike, I come to you. Mike, we saw kind of clips of Andrew's kind of interviews during the Zoom there last week, but this was the first one that he approached the media. He was actually in Celtic Park, and your first impressions, seeing him through the media and how he sees Celtic, exciting times, I think.
Yeah, well, like he says, I've been excited for the guy coming in for a while now after on him. I think, like he says, he comes across very, very well, but he's certainly a guy that just wants to get on the training pitch and do his talking there. I don't think I'm not saying that he's not interested in doing press conferences.
But he said that, though, indeed. He's not fond of he doesn't really use all this kind of social media or press his ideas go to the training ground, and that's where he'll kind of do his talking, like in this.
Wrong. He's going to need to learn to get used to being at a club like Celtic. You're hounded. You're hounded for the minute you come in the door. But like he says, I just liked everything I heard. I just want the talking's done on the pitch, not in the media. And like he says, all right, everybody's saying the talk great. That's good. But like he says, I'm more and more interested in how it transforms on the pitch. And like he says, the early signs are really good, and I don't think anybody could really have any. I don't think anybody could hold anything against them so far, based on what they says.
I think Barry is kind of have to kind of agree with Michael. Like the talk is kind of really good and coming off positive, but at the end of the day, it's what we produce in the pitch. But going by the way that he be in control of the signings himself, and he'll have the final say on what players go and what players say. It could be exciting times if players actually listen to Ange and adjust to his way of playing.
Definitely, and that's exactly what they're going to need to do. And I think potentially that's maybe what exactly we were needing and what we were missing for the last couple of years. He seems, in his early interviews, he seems to have a clear direction and a clear philosophy on the way he wants to play football. He
spoke about his dad one day. He kind of referring back to his dad about that, like that. His dad used to love attacking teams, and he's never watched football who defended.
Used to how defensive Serie A football was in that, which everybody a certain age group would agree with, kind of thing.
Barry, continue.
Yeah, so like I say, he's got a clear direction on the style he wants to play, in attacking football. He talked about formations that he plays. He talked about playing, high expansive, high pressing, fast attacking football with, wingers who like to go and take. That's exactly the way the Celtic supporters like to be entertained. But yeah, I mean, like Michael says, it's great to hear this. It really is, and it's putting everybody in a positive frame of mind for the season ahead. But the proof in the pudding will be what happens on the pitch. Now, we might not hit the ground running straight away, but we need to sort of see improvements. We need to see, progression from last season. But yeah, I mean, for me, the early indicators from the way he speaks his domain, for me, he comes across as a guy that's just football obsessed. He really comes a guy that lives in. I think he said it himself. He
watches football night and day.
Yeah. Just ask. He says, just ask my wife. He says that he's obsessed with that. And like I say, this could be exactly the managerial appointment we're looking for. I must admit, I hold my hand. I said it in a previous podcast. I was a bit underwhelmed when I heard the name. But the more I listen to the guy, and the more I hear other people that have worked with him talking, the more kind of excited I'm getting. And like I say, the interview he had the other day with both the fans and with the media, for me, he came across very, very well. And I'm excited to see what he can produce on the park, because ultimately that's going to be where he's judged.
It's like Barry, like when Dominic McKay kept saying, I'd be tapping into Big Ange's mind for his expertise and his knowledge and stuff like that. And considering that the Celtic fans know little about him, apart from what we kind of read him on the media and what we hear from the guys now, we actually don't know what experience or knowledge this fella has about football. I mean, this fella could be out of this world and we don't even know. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you know something. He's been in management for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I watched an interview he had. I think it was. I'm not sure if it was just when he first came, or maybe it was.
That was like how he's talking about his football or something like that, or something.
Well, you know what? He talked about himself as a football player, and he says sort of very quickly he realised that whilst he was a decent player, he was never going to make it at the level that he wanted, and he believed that coaching was his calling.
Mm-hmm.
So right away, he's identified, you know, I'm maybe not quite at the level I need to be to make it to the top, but I believe that I can be a good coach. And, you know, like I said, 25 years he's had experience, you know, as an international manager, managing in Australia and also managing Japan. Now he's got his opportunity to come. And the good thing is, like, obviously, Dominic McKay has said himself, you know, he lived in Australia. He knew about Big Ange. He spent a lot of time working in Japan. He knew about him. So this is a guy that he's entrusted to take this job. And I think, like, from the interviews that I heard over the last couple of days with the two of them, it's clear to me that
it's a good block machine.
Well, they're going to have a good relationship. Mm-hmm. Dominic McKay is going to leave Ange to make the sort of footballing decisions, first team level, etc. And he's going to do what his strengths are, and that's like I say, commercial business engagement,
yes,
and oversee the whole football thing. You know, I mean, Dominic McKay was talking about, you know, they mentioned to him about the director of football. I don't know if we're going to come to that at some point in the podcast, but they mentioned, is there going to be a director of football? And he talked about, he's already spoken to clubs in Europe about how they operate. He referenced Sevilla and he referenced Brentford as two similar models, or similar sort of size clubs to Celtic. I'm not sure about Brentford, but he mentioned so there, he's currently looking at that situation, and like I say, when he decides and has a better sort of knowledge as to where the club are at, I think it's then you're going to see these appointments being made.
The way because I actually looked into Brentford and they only kind of restructured the whole backroom team in the last, I say, 3-4 years. And since they kind of restructured everything, Barry, they seem to be kind of doing a model what Celtic were doing, kind of buying all these youngsters and selling them on for kind of big money and gradually kind of climbing up the leagues, you know. So I think that's why he kind of referenced kind of Brentford, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's something that Celtic have been successful with in the past, but we need to get back to it.
Yes,
because you know, in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, we've not been producing or bringing in these signings as regularly as we once were. But yeah, I mean, like I say, excited to see what the future holds with regards to both Big Ange and to see the direction that Dominic McKay takes the club in.
Mark, I knew someone from the media would ask him, like, how did he feel about not being Celtic's first choice manager, and that he only got the job because talks broke down. But he handled that question very well, I thought, didn't he?
He handled all the questions very, very well, I thought, Paul. But I knew he was going to get asked, and it's a stupid question. But honestly, what kind of answer did they expect him to say? Oh, I wasn't going to take it because I wasn't the first choice.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It didn't matter what choice you were. If you get the chance to manage Celtic, take it. Do you get what I mean?
And plus, Mark, too, like he already, like he pointed out, like as what Gavin and Chris said as well, like the Celtic supporters don't know how actually Celtic is big outside Europe. You know, there's a huge fan base, as we learned from the two lads of Celtic in Australia already. He quoted Jock Stein. He knew about the country. He knew basically Celtic's history. You know, which is a good.
I think, I think, well, we know there's supporters clubs all over the world. I think there's supporters clubs in every country in the world, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And, for a guy that's totally infatuated with football,
With football, it'd be stupid not to know about Celtic.
exactly, it would be silly I'd be more worried if he didn't know. Do you know what I mean? If I
Turning up
kind
to
of thing.
Celtic Australia's pitch on Monday morning over in Australia.
Anybody in football will be able to tell you like who the Lisbon Lions, it's kind of thing and that. No, but she says he seemed to know a lot, obviously he's read up in the club as well. Over the time, like when they asked him about the foundation and things like that, he's obviously done his homework on like the origins of the club and where they came from and things like that. So it was just the positivity across everything. I just thought the two of them just came across. It was like a breath of fresh air, Paul, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. And Michael,
Echo what the other lads are saying. That I'm looking forward to this season. I think it could be a really exciting season.
I think Mark, like until we kind of heard from him, like all those kind of doubts kind of went away from everyone, because we knew Leighton Farman confidence started gradually coming into the lads. And we got Gavin and Chris on. Do you know what I mean?
But even even the confidence he seems to have in himself. Do you get what I mean? The way he's saying how single-minded he is, and we'll play this. This is how we're going to do it, and if you're not going to do it, you'll not be here. That's the kind of message he sent to the players.
Yeah, exactly. Like he believes. Like I think Mikey, what he was saying was like he believes in the way he plays. He doesn't play any other way. This is the way that succeeded for him, and he basically he said he kind of dreamt of football being played this way all his life, and this is the way that his dad liked the way of football being played, you know. And it's really, I think it's a good time to come into Celtic, considering the amount of players that are leaving, Michael, last season, the players who are there are going to be where to go. It's a clean slate, and I don't think he's really interested in what happened at Celtic last season. It's from when he arrived at Celtic, that's when his job starts, and it's his way now, isn't it?
Well, he's got his style that he plays, and it's proven in his managerial career that it works. And that's the main thing. Like everywhere he's went, he's won international level, club level. So obviously, whatever he's doing is obviously working, and I've got every confidence that he will be able to implement it at Celtic. But like I said, I've said since the start of the podcast, that's the talking done now.
Mm-hmm.
Like they need to start moving on. Like you said, need to start getting a squad together to. Like he says, we're only a week on Wednesday away from the first friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And people say it's only a friendly, but like he says, from the opening games, you'll start to see the style that the guy plays. And whether it's a friendly or not, they're important games.
Exactly. Barry, you know how important kind of pre-season games are, getting into fitness, getting used to the new manager's way of playing. Like we should be expecting maybe one or even two sightings before then, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke with Mikey earlier on today. I'd like to think we'll have a minimum of 2 players in for the Champions League qualifier. I think that's a bare minimum we need. Ideally, we're not going to have 5 or 6 in by then, but if you could have 2 or 3, I think that would be ideal. It'd certainly enhance the preparation and strengthen the squad for what's a very important game. The Champions League qualifier is a very important game.
Put position, just strengthen Barry.
First and foremost, Mark, I think the guys have mentioned that on the forum. A right back and a centre half would be by priority, without a doubt. I mean, because like I say, we've only got Tony Ralston in there as a right back. We've not got any other ones.
Julian still isn't fit either.
Julian's still a bit away. We don't know. Is Ayer, the likelihood is he will play, or will he be sold before that? We don't know. But I kind of agree with Mikey. pre-season games, I've never looked too much into in any season. You know, I've always believed no matter the result, it's about getting fitness, it's about getting minutes into the legs and getting yourself prepared for the start of the season. However, I think this season they're actually going to be more important in terms of you've got a brand new manager coming in with a different style of play and a style that we weren't used to. And
No.
you know, the under Lennon. So the pre-season friendlies, I think there's maybe 4 or 5 of them. You know, it's a great opportunity to try and implement that style of play and try and get, you know, practicing basically. You know, get practicing the style that Ange wants in preparation. So I'll be looking at these pre-season friendlies with an interesting eye because, like I said, this is where we're going to see Ange's philosophies and styles implemented into these games because he needs to do it as quickly as possible because, like I say, we're only a matter of weeks away now from that first game. And like for me, the Michelin game is so important. If we can get through that tie, you know, as we all know, we're guaranteed Europa group stage football.
Yes.
And that's massive for the club. European football's massive for the club. Anything other than that's a bonus. Like we've spoken about it before, it's going to be so difficult to try and get in the Champions League this season. But if we can negotiate that tie, it will guarantee us European football for this coming season. And like I said, that's big for the football club.
You know,
it's big for the supporters.
Barry, like over the years under Peter Lord, our signings were usually depended on qualifying for the Champions League group. If we look for the Champions League group, we kind of signed that kind of better player than what we would have signed. Do you think, are we going to be dependent on that this year, getting into the group stage, or it's going to be slowly building a proper squad to win back the league?
Yeah, no. For me, I don't believe European football is going to have a bearing on the rebuild of the squad. It might do in terms of, you know, just for argument's sake, say we did by some sort of miraculous achievement qualify for the Champions League. It'd give us that bit of extra money to go and potentially
attract
look at 2 or 3 more attractive players. But you know, for me, this rebuild should have, you know, been planned long before now. So there'll be players in mind that the club have. And like Big Ange says, that there's hard work. It's a tagline that Neil Lennon used to use a lot as well. There's a lot of hard work going on behind the scenes. We just need to see the actual, you know, the fruition happening now and the players coming in the door. So I don't believe that our transfer plans will be dependent on qualifying for the Champions League or even the Europa League, to be honest with you. I think those plans are in place and the players are hopefully on their way into the club.
Mark, I think him saying that he knows there's challenges with the size of the squad at the moment. He knows provisions that need urgency to. He didn't say positions, but he said he knows positions that need urgent signings there before now and the Champions League qualifying, Mark. But the most important thing was, Mark, that he'll have the final say in those signings. So already we're kind of seeing a change of the way we recruit players, that the CIO and the board aren't really getting involved in that. Right? They negotiate the transfers and stuff like that, but it'll be him mostly getting the final decision, Mark, which is a step in the right direction, isn't it?
A massive step in the right direction, Paul. Spoke about it often enough that it should be football people making football decisions. So it's a good thing. It's got to be a good thing. But I don't know if you've got it down, but I still think there'll be a director of football brought in. I'm 99%.
I'm hearing a slightly different thing. I'm hearing a sporting director. And I don't know what that sporting is. Probably the same thing, but a different name.
Probably again, it's just job titles and playing with words, the way they do things. But I mean, if it's going to be that, it will depend what his kind of job criteria is. But I still think there'll be somebody brought in because I mean, there's only so many hours in the day as well. Where's Ange getting all this time for it if he's going to be doing this and doing that? And he's got to be more concentrating on, well, obviously the now while the rebuilding's behind the scenes and that's going on, he's going to be involved. But see, if a couple of months, I mean, he's saying himself he'll have a look at it a couple of weeks, even going down to the coaches when he was asked about Kennedy and Stratton.
Yeah, we.
Get it over the next couple of weeks and then he'll decide, which is a
Mhm.
good thing. Again, Dominic Mackay's obviously said to him, what you want, if we can deliver it, we'll give you it kind of idea. What was I talking about there? There I've lost my train of thought. Dominic Mackay saying to him about bringing coaches and things like that. And so you've got to think again that it's really just everything's changing. In the next couple of weeks, he'll make the decisions what's going to be happening. And then for me, it's down to Ange, and all he's got to do is concentrate on coaching and running that first team, because the people that he's helped to put in place to run the other things will be doing their jobs. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm. Michael, go by what Mark said there, like John Kennedy and Strachan. He said he will have the final decisions on new signings. He will have a look at the backroom team that's already in place at the club. He will see if they're able to kind of basically adjust the way he does things, and if they're the people who he wants around him. But eventually, that he'll trust his own judgment, and his judgment will be the final answer. Basically, it's up to John Kennedy, and look, we'll have to put Strachan in there to show him that they're able to move along with him, aren't they?
Well, he knows how I feel about Kennedy, and I think that's
Mhm.
why you came, because Kennedy's been brought into this.
Mhm.
Kennedy should have no say on anything. He can give his input or that, but if Ange even takes anything on board that he says, I'd be worried. Like he says, I'm so confused on, like he says, and there's a few guys on the forum that think he gets a raw deal, Kennedy and that, but he proved last season when he took over from in the games he was in charge that he's never a Celtic manager, and he proved that he was just useless.
Mhm.
Ange, categorically, based on the interviews and just the guy himself, he'll be his own man. He, like he says, he might be in Kennedy's ear for the odd thing, probably made about player personalities and maybe how they train and stuff, but like it'll be the same as when a new manager comes in. A new manager will review the squad that he's got in front of him, which isn't very big as it stands, and then he'll decide. It might be somebody that's frozen out for ages. That might come in and be a player that you've never seen before. Like certain players can play under certain managers differently. I'm still not, like I said, based on the report coming out, I'm still not even convinced that Edward will be away. He might end up being getting kept.
There's talks about him, alright, signing a 1-year contract extension, and he might leave. He just might leave for free at the end of the season. But I couldn't see Celtic letting him go for a free transfer. But could you?
If there's a 40%, like I understand what guys are saying that he might not be happy and that, but if he's happy to stay at Celtic for another year and play the way that we all know he could, I'd rather keep him for a season than sell him for the 9 million or whatever fees getting banded about, because of the selling fees that large for Edward.
It's not worth it, like, yeah.
To replace Edward, you're going to cost more. You know what I mean?
And considering the way he kind of plays fast-moving football, he loves to play with wingers. And Barry, you spoke about that as well, like the importance of having wingers and getting the balls into the box. It suits Edward down to the ground, Michael, wouldn't it?
I think, like he says, a lot of people say, oh, well, we can't turn down 14, 15 million. It's no 14, 15 million because of 40% selling fee. So I'd rather have him for a season for 7, 8 million and guarantee, like he says, I think people need to realise as well that whoever wins the Scottish Premier League next season are automatically right into the Champions League group stages. And look at the money you get for that.
Exactly, like the importance of winning the league next season, Barry, is like the benefits to just get straight into the group stages is beneficial revenue-wise for Celtic, isn't it? Barry?
It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And for me, it should be the main focus of the football club, because we're going to have more chance again in entering the next season's Champions League by winning the Scottish League than what are of going through the qualifications this year. So there's no doubt about it. You know, that carrot is there. You know, if we win the Scottish Premier League next season, you're not having to face. You're guaranteed. I don't know in terms of qualification, TV revenue, and ticket sales. I don't know, but I'd imagine it'd be somewhere around about 30-40 million pounds. So there's a massive carrot there. I'll disagree with Mikey. I would not keep Edward. I would not keep him. I would not trust him. What difference? You know, like it's the same. If we give him a 1-year contract, it's the same situation we're in this time last season. And he never bothered his arse last year. He came in. I know people will say he finished top scorer, but he's a top player, so he is going to score.
Barry, do you think that maybe this all talks that Edward might decide he wants to stay is because he played so crap last year? I know he was top goal scorer, but he still wasn't the same player that we saw previously with us. Yeah. And that top clubs haven't come in from like he expected, like, you know.
But that was down to him, Paul.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I know we should be showing him the favour now to reboost his career. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you know? I mean, so for me, Edward's form last year was solely down to him. So there's it's no wonder that maybe the top clubs, your Arsenals that were linked with him before, your Milans, maybe they saw them. Yeah, so, but I can't see, like, he didn't want to be here last year. Why is he going to want to be here next year? I don't really get that. I've read the rumours that, you know, we might like to extend his contract by a year. It doesn't make any sense to me. For me, I would look to get him out the door as soon as possible.
But even if we did, even if we, go on, Max, sorry, go.
If he'd want to extend his contract, put a 5-year deal down in front of him.
Exactly. He'll run a mile. Yeah. No,
because
see if he was willing to sign a 4-year deal.
To me, it's as if he's just kind of. If this is true, it's as if he's just using us. Oh, well.
That's exactly it, Mark. And you know what? It's like, well, you know what? I threw my toys out the pram last year and it didn't work. But I'll tell you what, I'll sign a year this year and I will try this year and I'll see who could come in for me next season. That does, you know what? Okay, I'll benefit Celtic financially, but no, for me, like I say, I judge him on what happened last year, and just my own personal opinion, I'd be looking to move him on even before the Champions League qualifiers, if I'm honest.
Yeah, because you're going to be looking at the same boat, then, aren't you, Mark? You know, you'll be looking at the same situation again next season.
Well, that would be your extension, and then it would still be like only a 1 year's kind of money. So. Why would Celtic? What's Celtic going to gain out of this? Yeah, well, I mean, it's just. No, I think it's just better for everybody concerned if he moves on.
But what's your take on when he said that he'll have a look at the backroom staff that's already here? He said, look, there is a knowledge of wealth within the backroom staff, but they have to be able to adjust to the new way the club is going to be run, my philosophy. So it's up to the lads now to maybe, if they're interested, that they show Pecans what they can do. But I still think he might bring in one or two of his own to help him along.
Well, I do as well. I believe that he's going to appoint his own staff. And that was apparent to me in his interview. He seems like a very shrewd guy. And you know something, I think he's a bit of an expert in all sort of footballing departments. You guys like me probably heard him. There was a segment in his interview where he talked about getting small advantages over the opposition before a ball's kicked. And he went on to talk about sports science and analytics. Now, this is something that he's very clued up in. And this is where Lennon wasn't clued up in. So therefore, like I say, Big Ange will be very sort of well knowledged in that sense, you know, your analytics. So this is where he'll be able to potentially decide, is Gavin Strachan?
Yeah, that could benefit. Yeah, exactly. That we had a man, myself and Mark were discussing that in the last podcast. Like, we had a manager in Dylan who actually wasn't interested, that we think in all these sports side things and analysing players, what Strachan was doing. So now we actually have a manager who's speaking to all these things, and maybe we could actually see the benefits of what Strachan actually does, Barry.
Well, that's what we've got now, Paul, is a manager who's well versed
Mhm.
and well up to date to know, yes, actually, this guy is very good at what he does, or actually, you know what, you're not quite at the standard that I'm looking for, but I know somebody that is, and he can appoint that. So, like I say, I mean, everything that was coming out of Ange's mouth at these press conferences, it was all very positive. And like I say, that was one thing that I took from it. He talked about getting, he says, even if it was a 1% advantage on my opposition before a ball was kicked, he says, and he talked about, it's not my forte. He says, I'm not, I like to coach the football team. He says, but I like these people around me that know what they're doing.
Not what they're doing, yes, exactly.
Yeah, sports analysts, and they'll be able to give me that 1%. Obviously, he said, I think he made a reference that he struggles with the Zoom calls.
Mhm.
But like I say, it doesn't mean that he doesn't know about
Well,
it.
Mark, yeah, exactly.
So,
He knows where his weaknesses are, and that's, as you said there, Barry, like he has these people then around him. It's like myself and Mark spoke about Alex Ferguson the other day. Like he brought in the likes of Carlos Carreras as an assistant to help him with the European football. He knew what his weaknesses were. That was European football. So he brought this Portuguese guy in. That's what I see with Ange. Ange has modernised himself over the 25 years he's been in management, that he's moved on with football. Each time football is modernised, he's moved on with it. Yes.
With the time where his new level
Yeah.
was still stuck like 10 years ago kind of thing. And
Mhm.
for the space of 25 years, he seems to have moved with the times, and as new things have come into football, he's done his best to learn them. And if he can't get his head around it himself, he'll get somebody to help him get his head around it, and they'll come in and do it for him.
And we're not saying, like, Mark, that he doesn't have knowledge of that, like, but he's bringing in the experts that have the knowledge in that, like, you know what I mean?
Aye.
It's like any manager, any good coach, they want to be on that training field coaching the team.
Exactly.
But obviously, football has moved on, and sports science, analytics, all this is part of modern day football. But rather than a head coach or a manager taking that on his shoulders, what they do is they offload it onto experts in that field. And Big Ange is no different. He just wants to spend all his time on that training field, really working hard, getting the players buying in to what he's wanting to do. But like I say, from what I heard in his press conference, he's well versed in all your analytics and your sports scientists. But what I can envisage happening is I think he'll bring bodies in, unless he feels that Gavin Strachan. I'm not even really going to mention Kennedy because I don't know what he'd bring to the table like Mikey. But like everybody, and Mark, you've talked about yourself. Everybody's talked about Gavin Strachan's well thought of in that field. Well, for me, now we've got a manager who's going to be able to make an opinion on that. And if he is, if Gavin Strachan is indeed as highly rated as everybody says he is, then there's a chance he might get kept on. However, if Big Ange, who, like I say, is now qualified, if you like, to make that decision, if he thinks, no, actually, I'd rather go a different direction, he'll bring in his own person.
And especially as well, Michael, managing over in Japan, like he'd be well up to date with all this new technology that's in football, because I would think how advanced Japan are in technology, that they'll have the best technology, like say, that's out there in football at the moment. I said Japan.
Well, again, it's just because it's not known, but the J League, it's ahead of the SPL or Scottish FA or whatever you want to call them. Japan, like you says, the league that he's coming from, in terms of quality of teams, Japan leagues superior to Scotland.
Was it Gary Lineker that went over there? Was it the J League he went on and he got first stick for it, didn't he, that time when they said he was wasting his career? But he spent a good couple of years over in Japan as well, didn't he?
Grand Passé it was he played for Lineker.
Yeah, so he kind of...
Totally agree. The Japanese league, apart from, we've got Celtic and Rangers in our league. I bet you the rest of the teams over in that Japanese league are a higher level than the rest of Scottish football, apart from Celtic.
The only reason we don't watch is because we don't want to see Hello Kissy popping up in the corner of the freaking television. Or do you ever watch the Japanese TV shows,
I'd love you to do some commentary on some of the Japanese games with some of the names they've got over there, mate.
Oh, man. I was listening back to the podcast because I wanted to hear how I did the Manscaped thing, so I listened to it back, and all I could hear was Mark laughing,
Forgot to mute my mic. I forgot to mute it.
laughing.
When I'm not talking, I put my mic to mute, Paul.
Look, moving on. Barry Dominic McCoy says he has a vision for Celtic that he wants us to be the best in class in the next decade. A few media outlets at the interview came out and asked him about the director of football. Look, it was one area that the fans know, I think the club know, that we needed as well under Dominic as well. But he really didn't give nothing away when asking, when these questions was asked of him. He was all about, well, we're looking at every department, it's not good. And if we think we need to improve, we'll improve. But
see if he come out and says,
it's going to be held to Denmark, yeah, exactly.
See if he come out and says, we're in the process of whittling down the list to the last three candidates. That's what it's just going to be that constantly, Paul.
The media are going to jump at him then, like, isn't this?
And it would just be constantly, and then you get the fans moaning. I said, do you get what I mean? See, come Wednesday, you get the fans saying that's nearly a week for he said we were getting a director of football and he's no coming. No, it's just playing it. But I mean, a lot of it he's obviously playing the PR game, and he wasn't committing to that much as such.
No, but what do you think he means by the restructuring was my thing. Like, does he actually see already maybe the weaknesses in our club that have been left to him, and it will take him a while. I don't think restructuring the whole club, Mark, will take max, I say 2-3 years, maybe more. Would it? Or
it could take a couple of years easily to get everything in place and everything running as smoothly as the guys like Mackay and Ange want to do it. But was it Barry that said, no, it's all done, the talking's done, we need to concentrate on the first team and
I think that's the main priority now, isn't it? Get the players in for the qualifiers.
What's happening behind the scenes just kind of let it happen. Do you know what I mean? We've got the manager in, so let's see how things are going now and let Mackay and Big Ange do what they want to do going forward as they look at all the different departments and the changes that need to be made. I mean, but just normal football fans, we want everything happening yesterday, Paul. Do you know?
That's it, like, isn't it? Yeah, that's it. And these questions, like when I was reading about the interviews, like you'll see the things popping up on Twitter from the different news feeds, and again it came up like no answers on director in football. There was people trying to come up with more negatives, Barry. Do you know what I mean? Like the BBC were coming out about it, saying no answers again from Celtic. But
it's not even the BBC, Paul.
It's everywhere. It's fans and everything.
When I came online the day, I went on Twitter to have a look about it and that, and there was I can't even to one. It was a Celtic site, and it was Ange's going to build his team round about Tom Rogic. That was the headline for this article for one of the.
Exactly, yeah. Just because he said,
and there was nothing
that he knows Tom Rogic, and Tom Rogic will be a player that knows him, kind of thing. Like, yeah, exactly.
That to me, that's just as bad as the dross that you get served up in the Daily Record or the Sun or these other clickbait sites. And I've actually seen that some of, I think it was that article that led to a wee conversation some guys had on Twitter about a lot of these Celtic fan sites are just becoming as bad as the MSM with this headline, and then you read the article and it's got nothing at all to do with what the headline says.
They're coming more like the media, like
it's clickbait.
Is there? I come to you first, but then I go to Mike Dennon. So, is there a major restructure, Barry, that needs to be done within the club? Has the club kind of really not modernised 2 times, or?
Yeah, there is major restructure. I don't think there's any getting away from that. I mean, you just need to look, like, as it stands right now, we've just appointed our manager. We don't have the director of football. The CEO has not actually officially started his role. That'll commence on Thursday. We don't have a head of recruitment. Nicky Hammond's gone. So there's no doubt in my mind that there's a huge restructure. But
there actually is. There's a fella in there called Lefebvre, Mark, is it? that he came from Arsenal, and he's actually head of scouting operations at Celtic at the moment.
Well, fair enough. I didn't know too much about that particular.
We didn't know.
But
We didn't know till I actually looked up. Was because I was looking up to see if that fella Gary Penrice was actually still involved in the club.
What I took from Dominic Mackay's questions, his answers to some of the questions, I think that he's obviously very well aware that the club needs, and he keeps on mentioning it, evolving, modernising. So he did that in Scottish rugby, and he did it to a massive, successful level. So for what I'm taking is he's going to go in there, he's going to identify that, of course, youth development needs restructured. The head of recruitment, it needs restructured. There's a director of football. So this is going to be identified. This is what I took from it, because he did say, he's going to look at the whole footballing picture,
yes,
the whole footballing operations. And then once he's decided the direction that he believes it should go in, he's then going to make the appointments. I think he actually said that. He says he'll put these people in place. So I think that rather than what us fans potentially anticipated was, the ball would have been rolling 6 months ago in terms of director of football coming in. I think he's coming in as the CEO, and he himself wants to have a look at the whole picture before he decides on making, right, this is the way, I believe. Because like I say, in his interview, he talked about he's already spoken to clubs in Europe. He's already, like I say, referenced Sevilla and Brentford. So he's looking at their pictures, their models, and seeing if that can be implemented. And I believe, personally, that is what's going to happen. It just might take a wee bit longer than what we thought. Because, like I say, the youth development is another massive area that needs an overhaul.
He comes across, Barry, as someone who's actually already well known across Europe, maybe just because of his links to rugby and stuff like that. But like for a new CEO to come in and make contact with Seville and stuff like that, like he already seems to kind of have contacts within the game, doesn't he?
Well, absolutely, and that's just sort of due diligence point. That is somebody that's good at their job, somebody that's wanting to come in and make a difference. He realises that he needs to make his mark. And you know what? There's no better time to do it, because the club is at a stage where it isn't even revamped, it isn't even restructured. So, we talk about a blank canvas, with Big Ange. It's a blank canvas for Dominic Mackay as well. Probably a bigger one, because Big Ange will focus on, the first team squad and elements of the youth development, whereas Dominic Mackay will need to have a look at the whole. I mean, he talked about engagement already. We've got a supporters media conference. I can't ever recall having supporters, having a voice and going in and asking the questions. Right away, there's a bit of progress, and he's not even started the role. But no, I was very impressed. He seems like a guy that's really excited to be in this role. There was some photos doing the rounds. I'm looking at Ange when he was taking his hands, with a wee glint in his eye and a wee smile on his face. He looks like a guy that's absolutely delighted to be the chief executive of Glasgow Celtic.
And even like me, that, like he looks like a guy who, like, it's actually the impression I'm getting off Dominic Mackay, and I go to Michael with this, is Mike, that it's actually a real cope for Celtic to get a manager like Big Ange, isn't it?
Yeah, I just like the way that, like you say, Mackay comes across. I'm not wanting to try and demean football in any way, but you can tell that he comes from rugby in the sense of the respect. Just the way rugby presents itself to compare to football, it's a totally different, obviously it's a totally different sport, but the way that they treat each other on the pitch and off the pitch it's just a respectful game. It's already shown in the weeks that he's been at Celtic that he's bringing that into Celtic. Like I said, he must have got the job for a reason.
Exactly.
And like you say, I've said again, like the talking's
over
now, and
like going by what Andrew said about his football, like a few counters, like what can we expect from your teams? And he said we can expect attacking, fast, scoring goals. We'll fear no team. We'll go out every game that we want to win, and we won't stop until the last minute. That's a winner already, Michael. Even listening to him, like, but it's to get the players in that he wants to implement the way he wants to play, isn't it?
I'm just excited to see wingers again.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Without doubt.
I've said it loads of times on here and I'm probably boring people, but
No, but we're the same. Like, I can't believe Celtic had no wingers this season. Like, I just couldn't believe it. Like, you know.
like says obviously another guy that we're linked to today. I think he's actually the quickest player in the Eredivisie. That Gerano Kerk, I think his name is, from Utrecht, the winger.
Yes, 19-year-old Fanawantes.
Like, the players that obviously are getting linked and signing them is different, but if that's the kind of players that they're getting linked with, then that's a good enough start. Good enough start for me. I'm excited for the football. Like that under Lennon, like the going into Scott Brown, back to the centre back, back to Brown, full back, Brown, defender. It was just sideways.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we're going to have. I think we're going to see a totally different style of play. Like we might see glimpses of it. I think in pre-season and the qualifier, because he said that, you know, that you might see glimpses of it. But he says, come the new season, he said you're going to see a totally different Celtic team than what you're used to.
I think a lot of the players will get a shock. Where like the fitness levels you're going to need to play the style of football that he wants.
Lee Griffiths on the corner making himself sick till he can't keep up with it.
Well, this is what I was really going to say. It's make or break for like guys like Roger and Griffiths and stuff, because if they're not able to get to the levels that he wants, then they'll just be punted. I mean, I want Griffiths to stay. I've said it loads of times, but this is the last chance to win for players like that. And like regarding Rogic, and
I'll come to Rogic next down the line too, so just leave Rogic at that there, right? I'll come to Rogic because I have him down in the things there. Mark, you were saying something there?
No, it's all right, Paul, because it's about Rogic anyway.
So that we come down to that. Just tapping out off Griffiths there, Barry. Like there was contact between the two lads and myself, and Mark spoke this the other day. But one thing that pissed me off this week with Griffiths is that he didn't have to come out and get involved with this crap again with Neil Lennon. Do you know, Griffiths now should just stop, get his head right, and if he wants a new contract, get himself fit and show Ange what he can do.
Without a doubt, Paul, and it looks like he's been doing it because he's been going in and he's been working all through the summer. You know, you've seen it. However, you know, if somebody's sniping at you, you know, like you said that Lee Griffiths doesn't have to get involved, and I understand what you're saying, Paul, but for me, Neil Lennon doesn't have to come away with his comments.
Oh, without doubt.
And I think it was Neil Lennon that started it by talking.
No, but what we're saying now is that
Griffiths
came out, gave his point, but Griffiths now should just let it out, because Lennon then came out with another pop. Then again, Griffiths now should just throw Lennon to the side. No, do you know what I mean?
Had he say just be the bigger man now? Griffiths should be. I don't know. It's just petty childness. Lennon, he's just some of the stuff he's come out with in the last couple of weeks is just nothing was his fault. It was everybody's fault.
I agree, Matt. And you know what? Like I say, I've sang Neil Lennon's praises many times on this podcast. I just don't understand. He's continually throwing people under the bus and deflecting away from. Not once has he turned round at any point and said, you know what, last season
I got that wrong.
You know, I need to hold my hands up and say a lot of it was me. No, it was the Scottish government's fault. It was Ball and Goalie's fault. It was, you know, Lee Griffiths' fault. You know, everybody but himself. But no, going back to your point, you know, Lee Griffiths now, you know, as a new manager coming in, his full focus should be on, because he's still not signed a contract yet.
No,
so his full focus should be on looking at the season ahead and pressing Big Ange in the early parts of pre-season, really sort of pushing forward, because Big Ange has said in his press conference he's going to get an opportunity. You know, Ange knows what he's done for the club in the past. He knows the player that he can be. It's now up to Lee Griffiths, as we've said before. It's up to him himself to show the manager, actually, I am here. I am a good option for you. Play me. Because like we all know what Lee Griffiths can do. You get him on the park, you get him in a good frame of mind, you get him fit, he's going to score you goals. He's going to score you a lot of goals.
Because like he said it, Barry, like he said that I don't want to talk about last season with the boys. Last season was last season. This is a new era for me. Everyone has a clean slate. Everyone needs to take their chance. If you don't take your chance, well then you won't be coming on this journey with me. So it's up to every player to take this, to take it by the hand. That is what I'm trying to say, you know.
Absolutely. Well, like you said, it's a clean slate. So guys who maybe weren't or in and around the squad, or some of the younger players. I mean, I think he talked about there's a lot of the youth players just now in training with the first team because the sort of the numbers are depleted with international
Squad,
players.
yeah,
And
and
the fact
it's an
that
opportunity
we
for
just-
them, Barry,
Yeah.
and this.
Yeah,
No
we
doubt.
just don't have players as well. All the lone guys are away back. We've lost the captain and the international boys that are getting an extended break. So there's a lot of young boys. So this is an opportunity for every single player on the roster of the football club to come in and impress that manager. And he's talked about it in his press conferences. It doesn't matter anybody's age. If they come in and they're impressing, they'll be in and around the first team.
Exactly.
So your players that were on the periphery last year, your Sorrows, your maybe Ewan Hendersons, other guys who weren't getting regular game time. Great opportunity for them to come and impress that manager, because as far as he's concerned, it's a clean slate for everybody. He'll know a bit of background about a lot of the players. He won't know about some, but like I say, a great opportunity for everybody to come in, really impress the manager, really get a good pre-season under their belt, and force their way into this first team squad, force their way into that first team. And once they're there, it's then up to them to sort of stay there, perform at a level that's going to keep them there.
It's like what Mark always says about what Roy Keane said, Mark. It's up to you to show the manager I'm not going to be dropped, isn't it?
Oh, that's it. You've got to train as hard as you can, as best as you can, and give 100% in games, and prove to the manager that you can't. No, I'm not mean. Well, Roy Keane's attitude was, "I'm Roy Keane. You're no dropping me. I'll prove to you can't drop me." And he did. You know what I mean? That's the way every player should get into every training session and every game, Paul, to give 100%.
Exactly. Just Mark, I'll stick with yourself. Like Anne said that if a youth system works well at Celtic, it'll be a great success. It'll be a special time for the club, as every club loves to see a young player breaking into the first team. He said he's a big believer in the club, and that, as Barry quoted there, that currently there are a lot of Celtic youngsters training with him at the moment because of the lack of numbers within the first team. It's a great opportunity, Mark, already seeing young players training under the new manager already, that they're already kind of, he's already kind of, is he maybe, what should I say, like Klopp and Guardiola will have the youth system kind of merely playing the same way throughout, like Liverpool do and Man City do, that if these young players have to come in, they'll be able to go straight into the system?
I definitely think that's something that any big club should be really doing, Paul. Do you know what I mean? It's, if you're producing players, well, Angie's went on about players that will buy into his way of playing and his way of thinking and that. You've got to produce players that are going to fit into his way of thinking and his way of planning things and that. So I think it's quite important to have that kind of.
Yeah, because if you have injuries, Mark, or anything like that you already have a young player, that you don't have to disrupt your own system, that young player will automatically just fit into that position, isn't it? It's a benefit. Like,
Look at all the teams you've mentioned. Man City, they're doing it. Barcelona have done it for years. Ajax have done it for years, and they're bringing these players through to play their style of football. They're coaching and progressing these players to play a certain kind of game. I mean, don't get us wrong, they're top class players and they'll be able to play for most teams in the world, but they're trained to play for the Barcelona or the Ajax way, and I think that's the way that Celtic should be going.
Mike, are you encouraged about him, the way he talks about the youth system, that at the moment they're training with him, and it's a benefit to the club if we can start producing our young players again?
It's about time, like you say. Other than like Kieran Tierney and McGee, and you're going back to McGee, they're not producing anything in years.
No.
And that's what I mean. They're not going to try and tell me in the whole academy in years past there hasn't been a player there. But just touching back on Neil Lennon, I think it was only Stevie Wonder that. I think even Stevie Wonder was able to see that it was Lennon last season. So I don't know what he's trying to do in the media, trying to play it off as
Exactly.
Blaming everybody else and yourself. And how many times last season, like this is more on Kennedy, did a youth player come in? I can't remember what the fullback's name was in that.
Montgomery.
Yeah, Montgomery, and that came in and did a job and was outstanding, but yet just got dropped right away.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving youth a chance. They're not giving youth a chance because the guy was good enough to keep you position, and you just put it out within the next game.
Exactly.
With that one Lennon there, Mikey, right, mind after the Fener game, is that how you say it? Fener game, he came out. Why has he not come out and expanded on that? He came out.
They named the players who want to leave, Mark. Yeah, exactly.
Giving singular wee pops at Lee Griffiths. Why not come out and tell us what this problem was back when in August?
And
On that and tell us what players he felt let him down.
What way did he cross it, Mark? What way did he cross this? Circumstances or something like that? He said want this.
But it was basically, he was saying there was players that didn't want to be here. Well, come out and tell us who that was. I mean, we're all moaning at Edward and that.
Well, we don't even know. It might be someone who actually don't know, Mark. And yeah, exactly.
We know that he wanted to leave and it didn't happen. But, I mean, did he go in as much as a huff as we're all blaming him for? Why come out and just... I mean, it's basically he putting the blame in the last season at Lee Griffiths' door. Why?
Exactly.
And just touching on Lee Griffiths, because obviously I'm a massive fan of the guy, and obviously he's had his problems and that, which, again, I blame them as much as anybody, but I like looking at it from a player's perspective, and I certainly didn't play at any level like that, but if a manager or an ex-manager comes out and has a pop at you, I think you're quite within your right to defend yourself. And as Griffiths said, he was good enough for the bench. So how was he not good enough?
He was fit enough. No, that's what I wasn't saying. Like I was saying, look, Griffiths came out and he gave his part now, but for the good sake of Griffiths was that he should just forget about Neil Lennon now. Like he defended himself back and just concentrate on getting his own career back in track, Michael. You know.
I think it's just for the sake of Neil Lennon as well. I think he needs to just calm it down and just because he's just making a
reputation in the club.
He's just making it. Like, he's already made it himself last season. Then he's just adding to that with the comments in the press and whether he's got talk about the Euros or something. I mean, there's a big, massive European tournament going on just now. He didn't need to always talk about Celtic.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's time to move on for everybody. I'm glad Griffiths, like you says, came out and defended himself.
Like, the right to defend himself, without a doubt, but move on.
Now it's time to move on, yeah. Now it's time to
Lee Griffiths, if Lennon wants to keep on having pops, I mean, it just makes Lennon look even more childish and petty. Griffiths needs to concentrate on himself now and get himself back into a state of fitness or whatever. But
especially considering, Mark, the qualifiers are coming up soon, and if Edward leaves before then, like a yes, he's only fit forward, and I won't be comfortable with a yes going into the qualifiers, would you?
No, I would not. That's how when one of the boys said earlier, don't know if it was Mikey or Barry that said it about what positions we need to strengthen and that. But it's right, I agreed with the centre back and right back, but I mean, if Edward's either planning to go or going or away by then, we're really doing it to the bare bones up front as well.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a big push to bring in a new striker, a centre back and a right back in the next couple of weeks. But as I said, if Edward's even planning and moving, no planning to sign a contract, do we want to play him in the qualifiers? So it would be down to like Griffiths and a Yeti.
Yeah, well, like I said, even if Edward does play in the qualifiers, it's not like he's going to be cup tied or that, is it?
No, that rule is gone. No, Mark, you were saying on this.
But would you trust him in it?
I would trust him over. Like that was a good point that somebody brought up that I'll be in the Yeti actually, because and this is no word. I actually forgot about him. Like, how has he not been like? I understand, like we say, we can't get rid of everybody, but surely he's on the list to get moved on.
Exactly, but considering the way Ange plays and he expects a high tempo of his team, and what we've seen of it yesterday, he never looked fit.
I think that's one of the most ironic things.
I couldn't see him fit into Ange's system. Why could you?
I think that was the most ironic thing that everybody like says now. I understand Griffiths wasn't the fit and he had his problems and that, but did people watch that Yeti when he came on from when he first came to Celtic to the end?
Mm-hmm.
That guy is so unfit.
He looked overweight and everything, like.
And people always blame, like he says, the fitness and that, and I understand there's obviously problems within Celtic last season. But surely it's a bit down to the individual as well, to realise, like, well off the pace, we're going to need to fit. Yeah.
It didn't have a pre-season. No, I mean, I'd put it down to that. I've said it on previous podcasts. It never had a pre-season, and I thought it'd have been a bit behind everybody else. But you're expecting come the end of September at the latest for me up to the kind of level with the rest of the squad, but he just never seemed to be fit all season.
You need to knock your fan in at that level of football, and I didn't. Like, the guy, in my opinion, didn't feel like he wanted to be there in the first place, and he was kind of pushed into it, and it showed in his attitude throughout his whole time in the last season.
Do you know what I didn't like about our transfer policies? And I think, like, we watched it yesterday maybe 3 years ago when he was with Basel and he was scoring the Swiss League. He was younger then, he was 3 years younger, he was probably fitter. And like, we seem to be kind of going back all the time to kind of old targets, Barry. Do you know what I mean? We're never looking outside the box to what we previously looked at. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're being linked now again with Eric Shevchenko maybe coming back to the club, but he was limited too in pace. Do you know? You there, Barry?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I mean, fans have got their opinions on every single target that we have. For me, I was never a huge fan of Sviatchenko. I think he used to give away a hell of a lot of fouls.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was never, for me, the greatest defender. But I think a lot of it's just paper talk, to be honest with you, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as we know, just now, we've not got a chief scout. There will be a number of targets on a list.
Mm-hmm.
We're currently working away on doing it. But, you know, Celtic have always kept their cards close to their chest when it comes to transfer
exactly.
and the paper's 50 point something. So what they tend to do is they tend to go and revisit players that have been linked with in the past. It tends to be the way that they do things. So a lot of the reports of players that, you know, we've been linked with, I've never really bought into. You know, the Croatian defender, Vuskovic, there's a brand new name that we haven't been linked with. And it looks like, I was just actually having a wee look on the side there, they're reporting that he could be coming in. I know I've said it, but the signing's very imminent, which is obviously good news. But yeah, I mean, like I said, that's always been the case, Paul. You know, we'll probably be linked with James McCarthy.
People will moan about, I mean, that the young boy, he's only 19, isn't he?
Yeah. 19, yeah.
Just wait till you see on the forum, oh, here we go, another project.
You know, no, but this fella is supposed to be, this fella is a highly regarded mark in the players don't decoration.
£5 million.
Exactly.
When you're £5 million, it's not a project. He'll come in to be a starter for Celtic. Granted, he's a young guy, but you're not going to put £5 million worth of player on your bench or in your development team. So, I mean, Stilian Petrov was 19 when he came in. He made a massive impact. We just need to hope that this guy's the same. Mikey's done his research on him. I've not had an opportunity to do that yet, but he seems very highly regarded. And listen, if Celtic are willing to fork out £5 million for him, you know, they'll have done their due diligence.
Done their homework as well.
Yeah, so for me that would be a positive sign, and one of the problem areas that you know that we have at the minute, where Big Ange himself has said there's a couple of positions that they're really in need of strengthening very soon. So that would take care of that. But yeah, going back to your previous point, we'll probably be linked with a number of players that have been linked in the past, like James McCarthy's and, you know, guys like that. It tends to be every transfer window. For me, that's just journalists. That's what they do.
The same players every time, isn't it? It's like when the manager's vacancy comes up, one name that's always linked as Keane. Like, you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. Like,
to be Stuart Baxter. You mind him?
Right.
Every time Celtic look for a manager, Stuart Baxter's name came up.
Was he not in Japan for a wee while as well? Was he not or in Asia somewhere managing back in the day?
I think he was, now that you mention it.
I'm sure he was.
Travelled anyway, he was up.
Scandinavia and that as well, wasn't he? I'm sure he managed in Sweden or something like that. But there was a name that used to get, every time there was a managerial vacancy at Celtic, his name would always crop up.
So that's it from the first interview. Before we move on to the next interview, which was by the fans' media, Michael there will just give us an update on the match. Michael?
Sorry, just before we went that, I was Stuart Baxter. He managed in Japan 4 times.
Was he? Aye.
Now he's managing in South Africa.
Was he
for the
still,
Kaiser.
still kicking a bit?
Just joined the Kaiser Chiefs as manager.
I thought he'd have been dead. I thought he'd. Honestly, I thought he would have been dead.
The age is you, Mark. He's 67.
Oh. Still a pup.
Yeah, on the charity football match, we've got 31 guys that are 100% confirmed.
Brilliant.
Everybody knows the venue is the Falkirk Stadium on the 18th of July. I've got kits sorted now. I'm hoping that the supplier will be in touch soon. I've hopefully got a sponsorship for them, but I'll know by the end of next week. So what I'm hoping to do is the guys that are 100% confirmed, they'll get their name on the back of the tops, and I'll be up to them if they want to buy that.
I hope your tunnels are XXL ones.
I went for L, large and XL.
And I hope you have good and easy surnames.
And what I'm hoping for is, like it says, if guys are wanting their names on the back, that if they can commit to buying the kit for whatever price that we can come to, and then that money also goes to the NHS. Obviously, because if you get your name on the back of the kit, then it's not like it can be moved on and stuff. The only problem I've got is seems to be is getting a referee. I had a referee lined up, but that's kind of fell away. So I've kind of
If anybody knows a referee, get in touch with us on the forum, or even drop me an email at ed007@live.co.uk, and I'll get you in touch with Mikey to get that sorted out.
The donations are, I think it's currently sitting at just under £300, which is great. But I think we need to, the guys that are especially participating in it, to maybe get a move on, so to say, and get the donations in. I don't know if Barry's got anything to add on that. Or
Yeah, I'd just like to come in, guys. Obviously, we're aware now of this charity football match. Absolutely brilliant cause. Mikey's put in a hell of a lot of hard work trying to get this thing organised in terms of bodies, venues. He's had to make phone call after phone call. And, you know, like I say, it's going to be a great occasion. You know, it's great that we're going to get a game of football. It's great that, you know, a lot of us on the phone, we're going to get an opportunity to meet each other and stuff. But I think we need to remember it's a charity game, and it's to raise money for a brilliant cause, you know, the NHS. Obviously, they've went through a tough time the last 18 months. I'm sure we can all testify in some capacity. I'm sure we've all, you know, been affected by this COVID, or not even COVID. You know, we've all had our ailments over the years and stuff. But so I think, you know, whilst it's a great opportunity for a game of football and to meet each other, we need to sort of focus on trying to raise this money and get these donations up as far as possible. You know, to those who have already donated, a massive thank you. It's great that we're up at the £300 mark, but I would say a real special sort of impetus and focus on the guys who are participating, you know, to go out and get sponsors, get donations. I appreciate some people are maybe not in a great position to do that, but even if you want to make a donation yourself, by all means, make a small donation yourself. Myself, I'm going old school. I've printed off an old sponsorship form, and I'm going round family, friends, and colleagues to try and get sponsors and get that up. Because, like I say,
Barry, could we maybe get them printed out for the lads that are playing, and maybe get them to email Michael or Mark their addresses, and we can maybe post them out to them and get them to do that.
Just get the document up, and we could email
it to them.
To be honest, mate, it's just it's just a basic sponsor form template. You get them online.
Was that from your Dundee days when they went into liquidation? Was it?
Yeah, spare us a couple of pounds would be good. But yeah, not like I say, I just went on because I'm not great with, you know, just giving and things like that. So I thought I'll do it old school, the way that I know best, and just print off. And like I say, you know, especially the guys who are participating, you know, it's great that we've got 30 odd people, you know, coming along to this charity event. But, you know, the fact it's NHS, like I say, I don't think there's anybody that would turn their nose up to donate to the NHS, because it's been a tough 18 months. You know, anybody that's got family or friends working for the NHS, or indeed that have suffered and had to, have the care of the NHS. I'm sure we can all testify they do a fantastic job. And so, really, whilst it's a great game of football, great opportunity to meet each other, if we can focus on trying to get that number, the amount of money we raise up as high as possible would be brilliant. And like I say, just a few minutes of your time to go out and speak to family and friends and maybe even colleagues to make a donation to this game, to this charity match, and really try and push and get the amount of money we raise for them as much as we can. It would be fantastic.
And the link to the donations page is in the description box below, so get it shared on your Facebooks and Twitter and things like that as well, guys, because it all helps. If you share it on Facebook, it is your friends and family that are seeing it, and ask them to share it as well. As Barry says, it's a really good cause. NHS, well, we've all had to deal with them, and some of the grief they've had to put up with over the years and things like that, and hassle of people. They do a fantastic job, and they don't really get a lot of appreciation, although it's changed a lot over the year, this pandemic. I think we've actually grew to appreciate them a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it's a great cause, and the money goes straight to them. There's a wee charges for the site that hosts the donations page, but apart from that, every single penny raised is going straight to the NHS. So do us a favour and share the link on that, lads. It'd be great.
It reflects in the wages, Mark, and well that the NHS, like Kevin Warner and Barry and that, also in the NHS, it reflects in their wages. Like he says that they don't even get paid enough, especially after what they've all been through. So if we can all get together and raise a bit of money to contribute towards helping them out, I mean, it's great. Like he says, football comes second in this case, and as long as a lot of people realise that, it's all about the charity first.
That's it. So
do we kind of link up, so trying to get these sponsor cards out, Mark, and maybe that might help people kind of raising funds. Thanks for that, Michael.
I think, sorry, before we move on, I think, like he says, regarding like Barry's doing it old school, but I think we're like, I would probably like to say that probably 95% of the guys that are participating in the match, it's the best way to get donations is just social media.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys, like he says, are in different, like Barry's different, like you say, because in the workplaces he's like based in the hospital and stuff, and that a lot of guys have maybe not got that opportunity to work. So the easiest way to get donations is purely just share it with your family and friends and share it via social media, so it gets as much exposure as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So
perfect. We'll move on.
Yeah.
So the next up was before Ange and Dominic McKay was the fans media, where the fans got their chance to ask Ange and Dominic McKay questions. Michael, I suppose this is the first steps Dominic McKay has maybe in rebuilding the relations between the club and the fans that has been deteriorating over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it was a good thing, but like he says, you actually go and listen to it, like some of the fans' questions,
Mm-hmm.
how they actually made it into that conference. I'll never know. Like asking them about referees and like Ange about referees that only support one club and that. Like, why would like Celtic supporters propose that?
I
mean, like some of the questions that were going to ask, I just couldn't believe it. And
it was the first one, and I thought, oh, this is.
I watched it back. I was telling Mark there. I watched it back today. I clicked into YouTube to watch it back, and that question was edited out of it.
It's still on the one I sent you, Mikey. On that, is it Vimeo or Vimeo?
It just made your skin crawl. Like, that. I mean, all the questions to ask somebody that just came to the club. Why would you ask that? All the questions that you could possibly ask, you waste it on that. Just absolute nonsense. But
I suppose, like, moving on from that stupid question, I kind of kept away from that, but I knew it was going to come up anyway. So, but it's a stepping stone, isn't it? Like Dominic McKay being a Celtic fan himself, he knew firsthand maybe that there was a lack of communication between the fans and the board, Michael.
Yeah, but there's been a gap for years and years and years. I think Celtic fans need to realise as well that like Celtic is a football club. It's not like this isn't like just your wee hometown club that you can invite anybody in and do. They've got to realise there's got to be certain boundaries. between the club and the fans as well. Like you say, it's great that the fans are getting a say. Now, well, they've always had a say, but this is maybe a small step into bridging a large gap that is between the fans and the club at the moment. So.
Marcus, going back to what Ed 2 was telling you, like there's certain things like that the club will never disclose to the fans, like so the fans can't be expecting to find out about transfers and budgeting and stuff like that, you know.
It was when we were talking about Chelsea letting fans into board meetings and things like that. I asked Ed too about it, and basically it's just a kind of pat in the head kind of thing, Paul, because fans seem to think that the Celtic board, not just Celtic board, all boards will all be sitting round a table saying, oh, what if we sign this guy, or could we not sign him? That's half these Celtic board meetings and football board meetings, it would bore you to death probably, Paul. Monotonous stuff. And plus as well, they're covered with stock market rules of what they can disclose, non-disclosure agreements that get signed, board confidentiality, fiduciary duties, I can't pronounce that either, but fiduciary duties it's called and that. So, I mean, there's a difference between just having these wee cosy press conferences and letting fans have access to the inner workings of the club. Do you know? That's I've said it on the forum. It's how's this going to go forward? This fan engagement, like what we saw the other day with the fans' press conference kind of thing. Do you need to kind of toe the line to keep being invited to these things? I mean, what's it going to be going forward? Is it just going to be the same wee select people that are there all the time?
Well, I don't think.
John,
the Cynic Club won't be there anyway. I don't think next trip.
John on here, he's messaged into the forum asking me why I wasn't there, and I was like, we're not big. To me, Paul, we're not big enough to be invited to things like that. Maybe it's because we're not as vocal on, see, like Twitter and things. I mean, we spoke about that. None of the two is really get Twitter and how to promote our so-called brand or whatever you want to call it. But I don't know how. So it must have been an invite only, and it must be through a kind of popularity competition. But it'll be interesting for it going forward because it is a kind of new thing for Celtic to have these kind of open sessions, because everyone was a couple of guys that used to get invited in for tea and biscuits with Peter Lowe, and then the next thing that what Peter Lowe wanted was getting passed about the Celtic community and things like that. But if it's only going to be the same people, I think it could just become another wee cliquey kind of set.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of
I will actually try and find out how to, do you know what I mean? How you get invited to them or that, because, well, if you don't ask, you don't get, do you?
Exactly. Like a lot of the questions were relative the same as what the media, were asking. But Barry again, Ange was asked about his backroom team, but he answered it differently this way than he did to the media. He said the club will now be working in a different way. We'll be training in a different way, and things will be different now at Celtic from when I started. There will be changes, but it doesn't really mean people will be leaving. It's more of people coming in to improve the backroom team. And again, he went on to say, it's my decision only. I trust my decisions. If I feel the backroom staff are up to it, feeling good, they'd be in around the first team, but there will be backroom staff more than likely coming in. Barry?
Yeah, I mean, what I kind of took from that is my belief is that Ange will sort of get his feet under the table at the club.
Exactly.
You know, he's got an important few weeks ahead in a lot of areas. You know, like, and first of all, pre-season training. Then he's got the matches. Then we'll have the Champions League qualifier, as well as, you know, there's going to be recruiting players and players going out the door. So it's going to be.
You'll be stupid as well, Barry, to throw out Kendi and Strachan out when you don't have your own backroom team in as well, wouldn't you?
I'm not sure. What that tells me is what I think. I think he is going to bring in his own guys, and it's then going to be up to John Kennedy what he wants to do. Because if John Kennedy decides that, you know, he stays on, or if Anne says, well, listen, you can be part of this, I think he'll kind of be pushed further down the pecking order. You know, I think if Ange brings in an assistant manager and a first team coach, potentially maybe even 2 first team coaches, who knows? There's 3 of his own guys as well as Kennedy and Strachan. How's that going to help Kennedy? Don't want this to sound the wrong way. But how's that going to help Kennedy's progression in football? You know, I'm not really interested, if I'm perfectly honest, which sounds a bit harsh, but, you know, my focus is on the here and now, and that's Big Ange and the Celtic team. John Kennedy's future isn't really my concern, but I just think he's going to get pushed further down the pecking order.
But it's a benefit to Ange as well, Barry, because like we're going to have a different way of where the club is going to be running the first team, and to do that, you'd want your own kind of coaches in around you who know your philosophies, don't you?
He said that himself. He's going to bring in the people that he believes are, I think he says, pull in the same direction as him. I think that's a direct quote he said. You know, he's going to appoint the people that know him, that are going to pull in the same direction and take the club and the team in the direction that he wants to go. So from both sets of press conferences, I kind of took that it wouldn't surprise me if John Kennedy wasn't going to be part of his future going forward, because I think the easy thing would have been to say, listen, you know, that they're here at the club just now, that there'll be good input, they'll really give me a help. And he never said that. And I'm not saying that they won't, but he never sort of indicated that they are going to stay. Time will tell what's going to happen, but like I said, my taken from Ange's words are that I think he's initially going to run with them, probably do his own thing and basically try and get them on board. However, once he's got his feet under the table and once he really establishes himself and gets a feel for the club, I think you'll then see him appointing his own sort of coaching staff and backroom staff.
Mm-hmm. Mark, do you think it's vital that maybe Ange brings in his own backroom staff, have the staff working that he knows and he can trust?
Well, I don't think. Well, obviously, it's vital, but as we've said,
it's benefit to him, like.
It's got to be. I've said it 100. Manager should be at least allowed to pick their number 2. He's somebody you've got a kind of relationship with, kind of thing. And it's for Kennedy as well. I mean, what Barry said there. But Kennedy, see if he get kept on, for me it would only be a reason that it would be like, looking at it as like a chain of command, he'd be like 3rd or 4th in the chain of command, and he would only be kept on because his knowledge of Scottish football. I think that would be one of the things. But do you know what? Ange could ask him about any team in Scotland, and Kennedy should know all about them, basically. What was like when John Collins came in with Ronnie, that was his kind of his encyclopedia of the Scottish game was meant to be John Collins. So I think that would be. I do think Ange will bring in his own staff, at least one other coach, like as his assistant.
Barry, Michael, I'm going to come to you, seeing as you discussed with Tom Roderick. Said he was asked about Tom Roderick and will he see him at Celtic next season, and said, look, Tom's a player I know well. I've worked with him with the Australian team. Tom had his injuries over the years. My job is to get him up to that level again, the way he was when I had him in Australia. But Tom's always kind of struggled with injuries, he said. Can you see the Tom Roderick's fitness levels coming up under Ange, or is it just gone too far now with Tom Roderick picking up injuries after every game?
No, I don't think so. Like under Brendan Rodgers, he wasn't any different either, was he? Maybe a tad more fitter. But like it says, the whole time at Celtic, I don't know how many managers he's actually played under now, but he's never showed under any of the managers that he was fit and.
In fact, like said, his self-aid problems with him in the national team.
Yeah, so I just don't know why. Like I understand like what people say. He is a good player when he wants, like maybe 1 out of 10 games, but I just don't see how, even as a squad player, he's any use. Like because he's always, like he says, he is, and he's never going to be a starter. And the only way you get mark sharpness in that is starting games, is it? Like, I just don't see it, and I understand the Sun or the Record or whatever it was that reported that Ange was going to build. Ange never once says that he was going to build his team around Tom Roderick. And if that was the case, that would be a major worry. I just, even though like Postecoglou knows him and stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if he was moved on near the end of the transfer window if Postecoglou gets in all the players that he wants. Just because he's worked for him before doesn't mean that he's going to keep him.
Barry, what's your take on Roger?
Yeah, I mean, for me, what the style that Big Ange has said that he plays, he's never shied away from the fact that he said it himself. The words that came out of his mouth. He likes a high tempo.
Yes.
He likes to press hard. That's not Tom Rogic's.
No.
I can't see where he fits into that at all. He says he plays a 4-3-3 system. It tends to be his favourite formation. Where does Tom Rogic play in a 4-3-3 system? I just can't see a future for Tom Rogic, if I'm perfectly honest. And like Mark and Mikey both alluded to, he said himself when you had him in Australia, he had problems with his body. Mm-hmm. And something, if the level of intensity that Big Ange is going to introduce into his training regime and in his match play, that's only probably going to hinder Tom Rogic's body even further.
So exactly, considering like when he had him with Australia, maybe when was that? Maybe 5-6 years ago. The last time.
5 or 6 years ago. Yeah, he managed in the 2014 World Cup.
Yeah, and he was still struggling with injuries then. Yeah. Do as you get older, Barry, it's hard to recover from these injuries that you kind of picking up over the years. The body takes that little bit longer to recover, doesn't it, from injuries?
It does, and the fact that he's been injury plagued right through his career, even as a young man, it's not going to stand him in good stead. So, like I say, if our intensity levels are about to increase, and going slightly off piste here, there was I think it was a Japanese guy who said a player that played for Big Ange, he'd said that the Celtic players need to get used to the intensity that's about to hit them. He says when he first came into us, it took us a while to get used to his intensive training levels. He says, but once we did, he says our fitness and our general play rocketed. So like I say, if that's what's about to happen at Celtic, which we all hope it does, because that's exactly what we want to see, I just don't think Tom Rogic has a place there, if I'm perfectly honest.
And can you see Tom Rogic attacking from the front? He can't even attack when he doesn't have the ball. I could see him being your like he does the high press defend. He defends from the top. Like I couldn't see Tom Rogic being defended from the top.
No, and he does it, and by the sounds of it, the Big Ange is going to want the players pressing hard. High pressing is what he said. Tom Rogic, like, I'm not disrespecting the guy. I've never actually seen him sprinting to close a player down. It's just not his game. So and like I say, Big Ange mentioned a 4-3-3 formation. Where Tom Rogic does not fit into a 4-3-3. You're not going to play him in the centre of the park. You're not going to play him wide. I like Mikey, it wouldn't surprise me to see Tom Rogic moved on in the summer. He almost got a move last summer, didn't he? He was supposed to go to the Middle East somewhere, didn't quite work out. It wouldn't surprise me if he moves on this summer.
Like he says, he's played at Celtic. He's been 8 seasons at Celtic, and he's played 140 games.
Jesus, ridiculous.
That's what I mean. And you're going to the 4-3-3 as it stands right now. You're going to have Sorrell, McGregor, and Turnbull. Where's he going to play? He's not going to get a game again. And like he says, the only way you get match fitness is by playing. Like he says, he'll be kept as a player only if Ange and whoever else is doing transfers, if they get the players required, he'll know. I don't think he'll be there.
That's the other thing, Mikey. The recruitment. They're looking at the guy Ali McCann. They're talking about the guy Patrick Berg. They're all midfield players, so they're players that potentially suit the style that Big Ange plays. Whereas, like I say, Rogic will not fit. You'll just not fit into there, in my opinion.
I think he'll still be here. I thought he was a certainty to leave this summer, but see, Ange's coming in, I think he'll be here for at least a season. Maybe even just down to the fact that he knows Ange. It's like an ally in the dressing room kind of thing.
Maybe get him as his assistant manager.
Honestly, I think Rogic will be here for next season.
But what Barry says is right. He's right. Like that McCann that we've been wanting to win, Berg and stuff. If they come in, then that does. Never mind. Like that'll if that Berg comes in, then Sorrow and that'll be the same. Like I know I quite rate the guy, but that guy Berg that plays at that, I think it's Bodo Glimt or something. He's a different level.
Like myself and Mark was saying there, lads, when you were working, you were off the podcast and stuff like that, that the likes of Roger and Beaton are taking up his place in the squad as well. Like that, we could actually have a youngster coming up into the first team like Luke O'Connell, Owen Henderson. Like they're taking up a space in the squad if they're not going to be playing 20, 30 games a season. Like when a youngster could be playing that as well, Barry. Do you know?
Yeah, and maybe we do have too many players in terms of squad players. I know our squad's a bit depleted at the minute, but the ones that are there, I've seen Beaton there, and I've never been a huge fan.
I like Beaton as well.
He's not a disaster. Yeah, he's not a bad player, but for me, he's never really held down a position. He's not a great centre half. He doesn't influence a midfield like you would want somebody, a midfielder, to do so. But again, he must have been there a good 6-7 years, Beaton. He seemed, at one point under Brendan Rodgers, I'd forgot he was there. I think he had a bad injury, but I think the main thing I remember was the whole Kieran Tierney. What's happening, Beaton? That seemed to be it. Until I seen him there, I forgot that. So, these are guys that have been here for a long time.
Yes, exactly. The comfort zone, myself and Mark said, like, they're in a comfort zone.
Yeah, they never sort of hold down a player or make themselves undroppable. Beaton, Rogic, maybe another 2 or 3. They've been there a long time now. It might be time to freshen up. And like you said, like Mark's alluded to before, if you move on these guys, you don't necessarily have to go out and get a like-for-like player. Promote one of the youth guys. Give one of these young guys an opportunity to see what they can do. Because whilst your Beatons and your Rogic's and these players are hanging around and playing 15, 20 games a season, it's stopping these guys from progressing. They're having to try and progress another way. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be on board for looking to promote rather than, like I say, for me, a Beaton, he's been here a long time now. He's never held down a position. He's a kind of bit of a steady Eddie. Maybe he'll give you a 6 out of 10, sometimes a bit less than that. But, like I say, he's been here a good while now without really making a huge impact.
When you want fresh legs in your team and you want fast attacking, like you want your young players, Barry, as well, like to be in around the first team. Like Luke O'Connell now is hitting 2021. Like, I mean, he needs to be taking a stepping stone now, and he's not going to take that stepping stone if Beaton and Roger are still there. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
he's 20.
Well, it's like you guys say, they're taking up. He's taking up a position in the squad. They're taking up positions in the squad, but it's kind of going back to what we spoke about right at the start of the podcast. This is an opportunity for these young guys. They'll be training every day. They should. What they should be. Their mindset should be: I'm going to bust a gut here. I'm going to really impress the manager. I want to be part of the manager's plans. I want him to see that I'm good enough to be in this first team squad and get an opportunity in the first team when it arises. And that's what these guys like Luke O'Connell, Ewan Henderson, Leo Connor, all these guys should be doing that. That's what they should.
The centre half, the young centre half, that Held, is it you put?
Leo Held, yeah, absolutely. Especially given that centre half's a bit of a problem position for us. Whilst we don't have bodies in the door, unless like Skpe comes in, it's an opportunity for them to turn in and say, well, actually, I want that spot. Granted he's only 17 years old, but if you've got teams like Leeds United looking at him, you got big raps from John Hughes in the SPL.
And that's the best thing about Ange as well, Barry. He said age doesn't matter to him. It's don't if you're good enough and he thinks you're good enough, he'll play you.
Oh, and I firmly believe that's the case. I believe in that when he says that, and like that. Hopefully, these young guys will also believe that, because last year and the year before they weren't getting that under Lennon.
No,
we've spoke about it before in terms of
favouritism.
Young Henderson and even Adam Montgomery. These guys that came in did
a job and then just get dropped for no reason.
Sorrow was the biggest example, Mark, because he came in and actually made a big impact, and then when Scott Brown
improved the full performance of the full team.
Absolutely, but we played a faster brand of football with Sorrow in the centre part. He got the ball, he moved it quicker, he closed down quicker. But like we've spoken about before, as soon as Brown became available again, he was in the team, and Sorrow never featured again. I don't think he started another game.
I think it's actually a good thing, actually, now that Brown is leaving. Do you know that it's going to?
Well, it
He,
opens
he
up a
won't have
slot.
long, he won't have to play in an Anne's formation. He won't have the legs for it, Barry. I don't think, you know.
And listen, not speaking ill of Scott Brown at all, but obviously he's 35 now,
Mm-hmm.
and towards the last sort of 18 months of his career, there's no doubt he slowed down. It wasn't just his legs, though, it was his style of play. He
Mm-hmm.
would be the go-to guy. He would go and take like Mikey said, he would go and take the ball from the centre half, but it was never at any kind of tempo or any kind of
Mm-hmm.
pace, and that made it so easy for opposition to defend against. But if you're moving the ball quickly and more direct, it's much more harder to defend against. But if you're moving the ball slowly and side to side, teams that are going to sit and frustrate you, it's a dream for them. They'll think we can face this team all day because they're not coming at us. So yeah, Scott Brown moving on, it frees up a spot, but also hopefully makes the opportunity to make the midfield more dynamic and more in the way that Big Angel wanted, the style of play he'll want to play.
Speaking of more dynamic and stuff like that, he was asked about the next Celtic captain, and he said that he would like to promote the captain within the club, but if he needs to begin the captain, he'll bring one in. But he thinks it's important to any club that he goes into that a captain is promoted within.
Rogic again.
So, considering we saw, I think, the best out of Cal McGregor that we did in the last year at the Euros, I think maybe he could be Celtic's next captain, I think, Barry.
I would say he would probably be the favourite.
Mm-hmm.
And you know something, it was absolutely great to see Callum McGregor in the Euros play in the way that we know he can play, given a sort of freedom. I thought at Wembley, I know Billy Gilmore got the plaudits, and rightly so, he had a terrific game. But I must admit, I thought McGregor was fantastic.
Was that going down to the fact then that he wasn't playing next to Scott Brown, and Scott Brown, he has to cover Scott Brown's position as well, Barry, do you think?
You know what, there's a certain element of that, Paul, but at the same time, I think, Steve Clarke set him up with a job to do. Yes. And he went out and done that job, whereas, like I've spoke about it many times before, I don't believe Neil Lennon gave any of the players instructions. I don't think that was what he did.
He didn't have going out to like headless chickens and stuff like that.
He didn't have the game plan or strategy. Whereas Steve Clarke, I know he's got his detractors and stuff, but he sets up a game plan that worked at Wembley. And so Callum McGregor, Gilmore and John McGinn, they were under instruction exactly what he wanted them to do. So McGregor's an intelligent player. He went out and actually, followed the instructions perfectly and was outstanding against three top midfielders in England. So, we can see what Callum McGregor can do, but I would say he would be the favourite. Probably if there was anybody else that would have a half a chance of the captaincy, it might be Julian. I would think out of the rest of the players, any sort of leadership qualities, probably Julian. But for me, I think McGregor will get the armband personally, if he's still there, of course.
Exactly. And Michael, before we leave this topic there, he was asked about that it takes, that they were reading from newspapers in Australia and in Japan, that it takes time for teams to adjust to his philosophy. But he said, look, it could happen quickly, it could happen slowly. It depends on the players that I bring in, if they're able to adapt to it faster. But he said, one thing I can promise you, in our match against Midtjylland, we'll see changes to our club already, and the foundations will be laid for next season. Will it take this current Celtic team at the moment to adjust to his philosophies?
I don't think so. They're professional football players that get paid to do a job.
Mm-hmm.
He says if they can't adapt to what the guy wants, then it's time to move on. And that's what I mean. If the guy gets the players that he wants, and he obviously wants them because he's going to fit his style of play, it should be an easy transition. Yeah, it takes time. It'll take time for maybe certain ones, but it's the same as any job. You get a bit of time.
Yes.
A small bit of time. You can't. No, I mean, you need to get settled in, and that's it. But the guy knows what style he's wanting. Mm-hmm. He'll know within the first few days of that Celtic training who's yay or nay. I can guarantee it right now. A manager will know within, especially with a guy with his experience, he'll know exactly who fits the bill in that squad and who doesn't.
In minutes, he'll probably know. Until you can take a manager level, will be able to tell. Watching even the way they're carrying themselves in training, he'll be able to tell within the first 10 minutes whether they're going to. He has kind of message in that.
Like he says, and like say, Callum McGregor, like going on the captaincy, he looks like he would be the favourite, but I wouldn't maybe rule out somebody coming in altogether new. Maybe no much a bigger name that might get the captain's armband. I'll be up to like I think there's too much made of the captain.
I think that as well.
Like you say, at the end of the day, it's a team game. Okay, there's somebody running about with the captain's armband on, but you need 11 captains on the pitch.
Exactly. It is only an armband. Not in
I mean, like you say,
probably get a wee bit more kind of leeway and pull with the squad and things like that. But when it comes to actually on the park, you don't need an armband to pull players up for no pulling their weight and ball and shout and do whatever you need to do. I mean, Paul McStay wasn't your typical great captain.
It used to annoy me as well when Scott Brown at the end of his Celtic career was coming off the bench, and it was Callum McGregor that had the armband, and it used to always get past the Scott Brown when he came on. That used to irritate me. I don't know why it annoyed us so much actually, but why? I just didn't see that. It's no fashion accessory. You know what I mean? You're the captain of a football club. Just because he's came on, he's club captain, doesn't mean he takes the band.
I was watching a podcast there not so long ago just to see how other podcasts were doing, and they were talking about the captaincy, and they had some guy on, and he said, I wouldn't appoint no captaincy. I don't think we need a captain. I wouldn't give no. I think next season we should go on with no captain. And it came up in the live chat, FIFA laws that you have to appoint the captain. Turns out, I didn't know that. I was like, man, you're a fan of football, like Jesus Christ. How do you not know you need a captain within your squad? Like, you know, just shows like that the podcast is out there. Like
guys arguing over what they were calling for the toss.
Exactly, yeah. Go ahead, you hit me heads last time we went. But Barry, going back to like that I was saying there to Mike, like that it'll take time for players to adjust. But will we see that adjustment straight away, or how long do you expect it to take realistically?
Ideally, you want it to happen as soon as possible. You know, but listen, you want the team to hit the ground running. You do, especially because we've got the Champions League qualifier coming up just round the corner. But let's be realistic. You know, it could take a couple of months to really get the style that Ange wants to play established within the group. But like I say, the players have got to take an impetus themselves. They've got to take the onus upon their shoulder to say, right, this is what the manager wants me to do. If I want to be part of this group, if I want to stay in the team, if I want to be part of the squad, I need to really, take the bull by the horns and show him that I'm on board. Because like we've said before, if there's guys that either don't want to do it or can't do it, they're not going to be here. They're not going to be here under his regime. And judging by the character that he seems to be, I don't think he's going to suffer fools gladly. But no. I think he's going to, if he feels that people aren't pulling their weight or people aren't living up to his standards and expectations.
He won't carry a player, Mark.
They're going to be out the door. They're going to be out the door. So the impetus is on the team to really go and buy into what Big Ange is wanting to do, his philosophy. And, we just need to hope, really, that they can really click in early doors. Because what you
and especially because the Rangers match is so early as well this season,
Well, you don't want to start the season on the back foot, but it might take a wee bit of time. But as long as we can see progress, as long as we can see things starting to click into place, the fans will give them the opportunity. We might need to be a wee bit patient. But like I say, fingers crossed, it clicks in early. We might need an element of luck in that, but hopefully we can see that it's going to happen as soon as possible.
Perfect. Before we move on, lads, to the last topic of the show, Mark, is there anything else you would like to add on for Big Ange?
No, just I've said everything, Paul. I'm looking forward to it. So I said it wasn't the kind of big box office name we were looking for, but as soon as we found out it was going to be him and started looking into it, I said at the time I was never convinced about Eddie Howe. I really wasn't. I had my doubts.
We just came to accept Eddie Howe, Mark, because we thought it was a guaranteed deal. Like that's why we was, yeah, exactly. Isn't it?
As soon as you look into Big Ange's background and the way he conducted himself and answered the questions during the two press conferences, even his first interview when he came in, I'm looking forward to next season. I think Celtic have made a good choice. I really do, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
It's an exciting time for Celtic fans going forward. I hope it is anyway. And it's all been put for at least it's some positivity, Paul, after all the moaning and gurning over the last few months.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Even on the live chat, on the podcast, we're talking about positive stuff. We're not moaning about nothing happening. What's Peter Lawwell doing this for? What's this happening for? Do you know what I mean? We've got a manager. We'll get a director of football or a sporting director. Things they'll all come over time, and the coaching staff will get sorted out. But concentrate on the first team and get behind Big Ange.
Mm-hmm. Mike, anything to add on for Big Ange? Or?
No, like you say, the talking's done now. Now it's time to just get the work. Like I say, we can all agree we've all liked what
Mm-hmm.
the staff came in and said. Now it's time to just get it implemented on the pitch, on the park, get the players signed that we need, and then, like I say, we'll soon see soon enough whether it's going to work or not.
Mm-hmm. Barry?
Yeah, just echo what the guys are saying. You know, it's great to be able to speak about positive things. You know,
Mm-hmm.
since the podcast has started, unfortunately, it was at a time where there wasn't a great deal of positivity to speak about. But now that we've got Big Ange in the door, and you know, his early indications are that we're going to see an exciting brand of football this season. So now, just kind of wait for the season to start.
I think the best thing for me was listening that he came across as a manager who has a plan, and we haven't seen that last season. He knows what he wants in players. He knows what he wants the players to do, and I think it could be an unknown for an unknown manager to come into Celtic. And as Mark said, we didn't know him, but the more we bought into him, I think this could be a great pull-off by Celtic. If it works, it's going to be some achievement by Celtic in getting Big Ange into the Celtic Football Club. Moving on, our next topic is that if you guys on the live chat want us to discuss any topic that we haven't discussed tonight, or if Barry and Michael want to discuss anything that we haven't discussed tonight. Barry, anything on your side?
You know what? I would just go back to the fundraiser, if possible. You know, like I say, if we can start to really boost the figure for how much we're raising, like I say, especially the guys who are getting involved. I think there's 33, which is great numbers. You know, like spoke earlier, Mikey's done a great job in putting this together. He's had to spend a lot of time making a lot of phone calls. It's been a lot of work for Mikey, so credit to him. But I think now us to give that bit back, if we could actually go and make an effort and get as much sponsorship as we can to raise money for what, like we've already said, was a fantastic cause. That's all I would like to say.
Mikey?
Yeah, just echo what Barry says. A few weeks away now from the actual football match. And I think, like I said, we've got 31 guys that are playing, but unfortunately only 3 of the players, which is Jonas and myself, are the only ones that have actually donated. So it'll be good to start getting a move on regarding the donation, because at the end of the day, it is all about the charity and not about just getting a game of football. That's all I've got to say.
Mark?
No, fine. Just as I say, just echoing again about the charity as well. It'd be great to get everybody a bit more involved in it and spread the word about it.
I would have loved to have played this game, but during the current pandemic and trying to get over it's just like a nearly mission impossible. But I echo what the lads are saying. What Michael has done, lads, is unbelievable. In such little time he's done to do this, to get into Falkirk Stadium. To get this is a big achievement for anyone to play in a professional stadium. So as he said, lads, we need to get behind Michael now, and it's for a good cause. So lads, I'm going to anything else from the live chat hasn't come up, so I'm happy to let it there.
I'll see a lot of graph pictures for a £5. If anybody wants an autograph picture.
With your Manscaped.
There, aye.
I'll just be glad to make it to the match. Last Tuesday, I've got a bit of five sides organised for guys that are local to myself that are playing in the charity match, and last Tuesday I had a bit of calf trouble, so I've got 5-a-sides.
Jeez, the other excuses coming out already, and 3 weeks to go.
I've got 5-a-sides again on Tuesday, so hopefully, like he says, I managed to last longer than I did on last Tuesday. So
Barry, what about you? What training regime are you on?
Well, I'm going to join in the fives on Tuesday. That'll be my first I've been doing a wee bit myself. I'm wanting to shed a wee bit of weight before I set foot on the pitch. So,
I heard for a wee birdie you were out jogging the other day.
aye, well, that was me. Well, I would say it was more than a jog. I'm moving a lot quicker than I used to since I've shed a wee bit of pounds.
Is that in the car now? Is it that you're moving a bit quicker than you used
You know what it is? It's since I've been with
It was at Dundee.
well, you know what? It's since the Manscaped, since I've managed to shed a bit of hair, I'm more aerodynamic now.
Perfect, lads. We'll let it there so for tonight. So, again, thanks to Barry and Michael for joining us on tonight. Don't forget again that this show was sponsored by Manscaped Grooming. Again, lads, if you're listening to it back, trim your balls while you're listening to the Balls and Bovril podcast. 20% off and plus free shipping with our code Celtic Rumours TV. Mark will now close the show.
Oh, thanks, Paul. Thanks very much, Barry and Mikey, for joining us again. That was really enjoyable that night. Thanks everybody that's joined us in the live chat. Just remember, hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and hit the like button. Thanks very much, lads. Good night and God bless. Hail, hail. What's happening here? It's the plug. Eh? What are you doing?